welcome to this edition of You Can Get There From Here. I'm Dr. Joel Moore, Chair of the Department of Communication and Digital Media Production at the University of Central Missouri, and it's my pleasure every week to get to bring to you some of our alumni. I talk to some of our graduates from the master's program. We talk to some who got their degrees in communication studies, and then we get others who graduated with a degree in digital media production. Today, I'm bringing on a good buddy of mine, Ryan Morehead. Ryan and I go back to when I first started teaching. He was a graduate assistant with the speech and debate team. And every morning he would come in, he would have everything set up in the back and he'd yell, "Coffee's brewing." Ryan, I got mine. Do you got yours?
Right here.
Good man. Good to see you. How are you?
I'm doing well. It's good to see you. And I'm really grateful that you decided to let a graduate assistant in the communication program be your guest today, but also somebody that majored in theater, both at the undergraduate and graduate level as well. So as an outsider to the illustrious communications department at the University of Central Missouri, and on behalf of all theater graduates everywhere, welcome and thank you, Dr. Moore. It's really special that I'm here today.
Well, we are so happy to have you because, yes, you got your degree in theater. Yes, you got your master's degree in theater, but you were part of the communication family as well. Taught public speaking for us. You coached with the team, and you brought a lot to the program, and you brought a lot of students' interest in communication. You're still teaching for us some today, but what brought you to UCM? What brought you into the program?
So when I graduated from high school, I graduated from Lee Summit High School in 2001. I went to a performing arts conservatory in New York City, and after spending some time up there, I kind of realized that maybe the streets of New York were not the best thing for me. So I came back, and I really wanted to. And that program that I was in, it didn't offer a college degree at the time. It does now, but. So I was like, I really want a college degree, and I really kind of had interests, even though maybe at the time I didn't necessarily know it, in maybe really continuing further and further into higher ed. I went to the University of Central Missouri because I had, at the time, family that had come from the city of Warrensburg. They'd always spoken highly of the institution. I had familiarity, again, with the area, and I just thought that it was kind of a natural fit. When I came back from New York, I spent 3 semesters at Metropolitan Community College, where actually I am now, before transferring to the University of Central Missouri in January of 2004. And that started both the completion of my undergraduate degree and ultimately transitioned me into the master's program, which I finished in May of 2008. So
what got you doing the coaching, the public speaking, or coaching the speech and debate and teaching the public speaking?
So by the time that I decided to start in the master's program, the the assistantships in the theater program were full, and they'd already been allocated. And to her credit, Dr. Julie Pratt at the time, Dr. Mullenkamp, now who's since retired, said, "You know what you would be really good at?" And I said, "I have no idea what I'm going to be really good at. I
stand-up comedy.
Certainly can tell." No, I maybe we'll see.
I'd buy tickets.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you for that. She said, "I'm going to talk to Dr. Jack Rogers and Dr. Art Reynolds in the communications program and see if they have anything available." About a week after she said that, I met with Dr. Rogers and Dr. Reynolds, and the rest is kind of history from that point. So, met with them, and that was really the start of. I will say this probably forever. That was the start of really my career at the time, even though I really didn't know it, and I am forever grateful, obviously, to Dr. Reynolds and most certainly Dr. Rogers for everything that we were able to do together while I was there in the master's program. So
well, and communication and theater, they go so closely together because it's all storytelling, it's all communication, it's all getting that message out there. We share a BSc program and speech theater education, and we share our common theater day every year together, and so you fit right into that. And you mentioned now that you're at MCC. Tell us what you're doing today.
So when I finished the master's program in May of 2008, I was really okay. So my whole career trajectory is and I tell people this all the time, it's always kind of rooted in disasters. Let me explain. Not just because of me, although I'm a very large part of that. So when I finished in May of 2008, Dr. Richard Herman, a very close friend of mine to this day and a good mentor of mine as well, along with Dr. Rogers and Dr. Reynolds, Dr. Herman came to me and said, I want you to go talk to, and I got to be careful because he didn't say it exactly like this. He was like, I want you to go talk to a former colleague and friend of mine at Benedictine College, whose name was Miss Anita Buman-Wiggs, who used to be the costume designer in the theater program in I think it was like the mid 90s to the early 2000s. Miss Anita had left, and her husband, Adam Buman-Wiggs, Dr. Buman-Wiggs, had kind of taken up academic positions at Benedictine College up in Atchison, Kansas. They'd had some transition things happen with their theater program in the spring of 2008. And so I went up there and interviewed for what was supposed to be a year interim position at Benedictine College, and I was lucky enough, thanks to Dr. Kimberly Shankman and and Mr. Stephen Minnis, the president of Benedictine College, and the dean. Dr. Shankman's the dean still to this day, to take on the chair of the Department of Theater and Dance for a year interim position starting in the fall of 2008. Now, for those of you that remember anything about the 2007, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 years, that would have been the years of the worst economic crisis in the history of the United States since the Great Depression. And the reason that I say I moved from disaster to disaster is because by the time that I'd started at Benedictine, and that program needed a lot of work, right? They'd had some years of, I mean, I'll say it candidly, mismanagement, and somebody that didn't know really, I think, how an academic theater program was supposed to be run, if I'm being honest. I knew I was only going to be there for a year. And so I came in with the mentality that I do frequently when I do things. I said, listen, I need to leave this place better than what I received, because I think it's the right thing to do. And I was also, I think, very young and trying to maybe make a name for myself. And so I went in guns blazing and turned things around, I think, very quickly. Dr. Shankman recognized this. And by the time we'd mounted our first production in the fall of 2008, it was a big hit for Benedictine College at the time. The day, I guess, that production closed on a Saturday. On Monday morning, I got a call in my office at 8 o'clock, and the dean said, Ryan, you're doing such a good job. We'd love for you to stay past the year if you'd like. And I said, that's really funny, because at this time in October, early November of 2008, the market was tanking to the tune of like 700 and 800 points a day, right? The college had already put on a very hard hiring freeze, actually. And I said, well, I appreciate that, but I also understand you're under a hiring freeze, and, you don't have to flatter me, is basically what I said. She said, and this is another great thing. I respect and admire Dr. Shankman to this very day. She said to me, how long would you like to stay? And I said, well, given the economic conditions, I think I'd stay for probably the next 25 years. And she said, I'll write you a 25-year contract right now. And that was probably one of the nicest things that anybody has ever said to me. And I said, well, let's not do 25. Because I still had my sights set on a PhD program that ultimately never materialized, but I think I parlayed it into something pretty good. I said, well, let's do 3. And she goes, Ryan, will you give me 4? And I gave her every bit of the 4 years at Benedictine College. And from a kind of development point of view in higher ed, and being very lucky, not being a PhD holder, chairing a department at a 4-year institution, those were probably the best 4 years of my early academic career. I'm very grateful to Benedictine College, and again, Steve Minnis and Dr. Kimberly Shankman for everything that they showed me while I was there. So yeah, from 2008 to 2012, I was at Benedictine College. I knew that I wanted to come back to the Kansas City area. I'm a Kansas City guy. And so I was fortunate enough to take on another position at Metropolitan Community College in really the summer of 2012. I started as the, what was it at the time? Administrative coordinator of cultural arts for the MCC Longview campus. In the same years of the Great Recession, they built a beautiful cultural arts center at the Longview campus, and They completed it in October of 2008, and they didn't have the funds or the resources to staff it, give it a budget, do any of those types of things. They basically done maybe one or two one-off productions and then had some choral concerts for the college students that were there at the time. So they finally cobbled together the resources to create the position to do that. And by the time I left in the summer of 2012, so let me back up for 1 second too. And Joe, I know this is a lot more, Dr. Moore, I know this is a lot more information than you'd probably ask, but I think it's a good story, so I'm going to tell it. And not just because it has anything to do with me. The trajectory of a lot of people in higher ed, particularly younger professionals, is almost identical to this, because a lot of us went from like the Great Recession, and then it was just like you had some touchy economic years, and then you moved into like the COVID and the pandemic years. And my career trajectory has been able to kind of navigate successfully, I hope, all of those kind of things. So just bear with me for a minute.
I'm with you.
I know we only have like 20 minutes, but you know me.
I was kind of thinking this was a short story for you.
So yeah, right. So da, 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 da. So I get to MCC from 2008 to 2012, while four-year institutions enrollment based off of the economic factors is kind of declining, because the resources that families had to be able to send their students to college wasn't as prevalent as maybe it was prior to the recession. A lot of individuals started to send their students to community colleges. And so MCC in particular, across the 5 campuses that we have, had seen record-breaking enrollment, right? So from really 2008 until about the summer of 2012, their enrollment trajectory was going through the roof, while some others was really struggling just to hold on. And I know that you remember some of those years, and I used to talk to Dr. Rogers about that a lot. So of course, I start in the summer of 2012 when they'd first seen their summer enrollment numbers, and that's when they started to hit their decline, right? So remember, they bring in the person to kind of steer this cultural arts center into its own thing, and we had some rocky years trying to put all of that together as well. So from the first 3 years that I was there, cobbling together resources, trying to create an infrastructure that the program needed, while trying to attract, students and work with, upper echelons of administration and faculty and all of those types of things. The one consistent thing that I was able to actually do was continue to teach. And luckily, Dr. Reynolds was the chair in 2013, and he came back to me and said, "Do you want to teach some public speaking classes for us?" And I said, "Yeah," because I was doing more program development and program management at the time. But teaching is something that I enjoy, and I will do it until I am unable to do it. And why not do it for my alma mater as well? So the years that I first spent, basically from 2012 until about April of 2022, were all focused on cultural arts, and maybe not even April 2022, because we got the program up. We started to have some great success. We got some permanent tenants in the Cultural Arts Center at MCC. We worked with some resident arts groups that decided to call the Cultural Arts Center their home. We became revenue generating. Like, it was very, very nice. Very frustrating at times, but very nice to see the trajectory of this place turn from like bare bones, absolutely nothing, like I am the only one in this building, to having a constant kind of repertoire of not only productions, but community organizations that we were working with as well. Then, of course, we all know what happened in March of 2020.
Good times.
The pandemic hit, and because we're located in Kansas City, we were under orders from the city of Kansas City, so we couldn't produce or do pretty much anything. And if you're a theater person or an artist or anybody else, those were really, 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 and to a degree still are, very rough and rocky times. I stayed consistent through my teaching, both for MCC and with the University of Central Missouri. UCM actually, I think, started to really, during the COVID years in particular, and it was the strangest thing. We would have meetings at MCC, like maybe we're going to see some enrollment increases because we don't know what the economic factors are going to be. And it was the exact opposite for MCC. Our enrollment fell off a cliff. It was really rocky times, but at UCM, the inverse happened. This is when people started to really, I think, take advantage of and invest in online programs and distance ed programs. And so I think we've seen some pretty good success with those particular programs. But at MCC, from what was it, the fall of 2020 until April 1st of 2022, I led, this is so weird, I led all of the contact tracing operations for MCC. Long story short, we traced about, I think all told, it was like 6,000 individuals in the, you know, 18-month, almost 2 year period. I started again just by myself. That's kind of a common trend. I don't think it's healthy to do it that way because collaboration is like super crucial, particularly in higher ed. But started by myself. Ultimately, we got a staff and we were doing wonderful things to keep all of the students of MCC safe at the institution and make sure that the spread of that wretched disease didn't kind of take over all of MCC. In April of 2022, I left MCC and I ran the immersive Van Gogh art shows that I still taught for UCM and for MCC, but I left the Cultural Arts Center and for a year, I did the immersive Van Gogh shows that were kind of popping up all over the place. I worked with a company out of Toronto, Canada, managed them for Kansas City, had a big fat staff and everything else. Then you realize that those things are kind of a result of the pandemic as well, with social distancing in big places, peaceful kind of like art shows, big staff, production people coming from all over the country and frankly all over the world to work in the venue that we had. And it was really, really nice. But as that thing started to kind of ebb, I went back to MCC and where I am now as the director of major gifts and annual giving in the MCC Foundation, working to raise money for not just MCC students, but really the MCC students that need it the most. I worked very closely in my time prior to leaving, and certainly now with Dr. Kimberly Beatty, the Chancellor of Metropolitan Community College, who I'm a big fan of. And when the position was able to be filled because some of those economic factors that were a result of the pandemic had kind of went away, I saw that the position was open and I called her up and I said, hey, what do you think about? And the rest is kind of history. And so now we raise money for the 14,000 students of Metropolitan Community College. And in the year and a half that I've been back, it's been really, really successful and we're doing some really good things. So I'm very fortunate to have kind of really mitigated those disasters and moved from one to the other to stay in higher ed and work to the preservation of higher ed too, which is something that I really believe in. I believe in the academy and I believe that a college education has the ability to transform lives and set people on a good career trajectory. Does that answer your question?
That does answer my question. I do appreciate what you had to say there about the value of a college education and what it can do for you. I also appreciate you talking about that your career was really grown by struggles, by disasters. You know,
100%.
and they'll say that struggles don't test your character, they reveal it. What did you learn about yourself through all the challenges that you faced? And I don't think there were any challenges that were, you talk about self-inflicted. I don't think it's anything you did. I mean, you didn't make the economy tank. You didn't bring around COVID.
Yes, I did.
Well, then we need to have another talk after this. No, you endured. You worked through it. What did you learn about yourself during those times?
Stark raving psychopath. That's what I learned about myself. No, I listen, this is what I say. And I will say it. And a lot of people that know me, I was talking to my colleague, Jonathan Waymeyer, who's at Truman State University. We work together at Benedictine College. We have similar upbringings and similar backgrounds. I'm from Kansas City. John's from rural Missouri. And the thing that we used to sit in my office at Benedictine College and we used to say things like, do you ever feel guilty about having a job like this, given like what our families did or what our fathers did? And I would say sometimes I really do. The thing with higher ed is, and it's very difficult, it's not an easy job, whether you're on the faculty side, whether you're on the administration side, certainly the student service side, all of the technology and all of the things that they have to navigate while managing their course loads and or student loads and all of those types of things. It's difficult. At the end of the day, though, it was never the type of work that maybe our parents did. It wasn't with our back in our hands. And I think if you keep that kind of perspective, that this is a challenge of the mind, and it's not necessarily, whereas it is physically taxing, it doesn't have the type of gravity that manual labor does. And for people like I said, Dr. Waymeyer and I, who were probably never supposed to be in higher ed, um, it's good to keep that kind of perspective. I think the thing that I learned maybe most about myself was uh, something maybe I already knew, maybe because of my upbringing. You know, if you look at it, and this is so dumb, I can't believe people, I hope nobody watches this, but
Thanks.
if you're, no, no, not for your sake, for mine. Like, I, if you're in a fight, don't stop fighting until it's done. And, that's maybe the perspective that I always have. And that sounds silly, particularly when applied to higher ed, but it's a struggle, I guess, but it's more of a fight, and I'm going to win the fight regardless. And maybe there'll be more fights, and we'll win those too. Like
Leave
I
the
said,
world a
it's
better
silly,
place.
but that's the perspective that I've always had, and certainly leaving the world a better place and making it easier for those that are going to come after you.
So that kind of addresses the next question I was going to ask, but I'd like you to expand on a little bit. What is your why? What motivates you?
Even the academy. I believe in higher ed, and in my particular case, I believe in the mission of a Metropolitan Community College, and frankly, all community colleges. You know, in the late 80s, throughout the 90s and early 2000s, it was kind of it was a purpose for a lot of people, and it was something that maybe the country hadn't felt was attainable for everybody. I'm talking about a college education, right?
Mhm.
And getting
Right.
one. I think that education stamps out ignorance, one mind at a time, to quote Dr. Rogers. Um, it's something that everyone can do. And if you're putting it in terms of, an attainable, affordable, accessible, equity-based um, mission that one can accomplish, certainly community colleges offer that. I believe in that. I didn't grow up as somebody with means. I certainly didn't grow up as somebody with a lot of economic disadvantages that a lot of other people had. But I want to recognize the things that I think I can be successful in, and one of those things is furthering missions to give and expand access to students of all types across the sphere of higher ed. And you and I both know, and a lot of people do, the built-in, I'll use the term, the built-in elitism that exists even to this day in the academy is just another wall that can be broken down, maybe one piece at a time, but it's only going to happen when you have motivated individuals that are able to do so and want to do so. One of the things that really motivates me, and something that I kind of keep really top of mind while working with students, is for some of you, this is going to be really easy. For others, this is not going to be easy at all. My role in the whole thing is not only to facilitate the material, but help make your process through all of this. I don't want to say easy, but navigate it without the external factors really being the drive to that. At MCC, we pride ourselves on working directly with our students as best we can. At UCM and the dual credit students that we work with, we know that some of them, whether it be rural Missouri or in Kansas City proper, have obstacles that are not their fault and need to be kind of a factor when it comes to completing a course or completing a degree. If I can at all make that an easier process for those particular students, that's exactly what I'm going to do. And you do still have some, I'll say it, senior faculty who, nope, shouldn't be a factor at all. Well, it's going to be a factor with me. You have a good day. I'm not going to worry about you, right? I'm there to facilitate the material and really empower those students to have better lives for themselves. They deserve it, right? So my why is that access piece. It starts in the classroom. Actually, it starts when you fill out your application and you have that first conversation in person, online, or over the phone with an advisor. many of the student services individuals who frequently get left out of the conversation a lot. I've never worked in student services. I've worked faculty. I've worked in kind of the academic program management side of it, now in administration. Um, Access and opportunity, I think, are what drive me every day, whether I'm raising money for MCC or teaching a communication class at the University of Central Missouri. That's the thing that I just keep top of mind. You have the ability to do this. You have the right to do it, and you need people in your corner that are going to help you get there. And the only thing that someone like me ever asks is, when you're in a position to do it for somebody else, do it without even blinking and ask for nothing, right? Just do it because it's the right thing to do.
Yeah,
That's it.
I think that's part of the reason you and I always got along so well.
100%.
Aside from the fact we're both dashingly handsome, um,
It hurts. It
doesn't
hurts.
it? Yeah, just the
Yeah.
glow off the screen right now
Yeah.
is
These dark circles, that's so attractive.
oh, that's great. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Is the fact that we both come with that mindset of we're here to serve. We're here to
100%.
give these kids a leg up, give them a greater chance. And
That's right.
so, I mean, obviously, I'm a big proponent of that 4-year degree. I'm a big proponent of graduate school. I'm
Yep.
also a big proponent of community college. You know, I talk when I go to schools and I talk to students and they tell about the struggles they're having financially and they don't know if they're going to be able to afford it. I ask them, "Are you doing A plus?" And they'll say, yeah. I'll say, then go to a community college because
Yes.
that's going to get you a couple of years taken care of right there. You get that done, then transfer to UCM. Come
Yep.
hang out with me for 2 years. I'd rather have you for two than none.
Right.
You're doing
You
dual
know,
credit. Cut
and
into that budget.
your degree, for whatever reason, I think it's maybe more prevalent in the Midwest and certainly in parts of the South in the United States. The stigma against a community college education is still there. I mean, we are aware of that
Mhm.
institutionally at MCC. And so we, not just in the foundation, but I think programmatically and certainly academically at a place like MCC, and I know Johnson County Community College probably feels exactly the same way, um, trying to really remove that stigma and either remind you that your degree will say, hey, you, the University of Central Missouri, Mizzou, whatever it's going to be, if that's something that bothers you. But the affordability piece and the access piece, this is your starting point. This is
Yep.
not where you're going to finish, right? Um, Again, presenting students with the opportunity to explore the world outside of what they're used to, super important. And I think community colleges in particular are a great place to do that. You will find in many instances that college is not for everyone, but the benefit that a community college has is certification, CTE programs that really start to funnel students into those job and career readiness, you know, programs. We offer a lot of those. A lot of four-year institutions haven't yet or don't have the capability to do that. So again, offering the platform for students to find their niche in the world, that's invaluable. That's the whole thing. Be it at a 2-year school where maybe you start off as an education major and end up as a really great welder, or starting as an education major, finishing as an education major, and then, turning into the best public school teacher on the face of the earth. That's great, right? The plurality of what higher ed can be is very important. And with every passing day or with every passing legislative action, sometimes it becomes very difficult to, you like how politely I said that?
Oh, that was nice.
Becomes very difficult to do, but stubbornly and fanatically, we will not stop, to
Yeah.
quote Anton Chekhov. So there you go.
Yep, we keep battling, and that's one of the things that
Yep.
we're doing right now at UCM, and particularly in our department, is working on articulation agreements with our community college partners because we recognize so many students are going that route, and it's great. I mean, I've gone to several community colleges. I've worked with several. I need to get up there to MCC and visit with you all. Um, the programs today. I mean, when I was coming out of high school, I grew up in Sedalia. State Fair was right down the road, and it was, a lot of technical education and nursing and welding and construction and things like that. Now they have a digital media production program. Community colleges have expanded their menus, and for us in 4-year colleges, if we don't partner with them, we're crazy. We're crazy. We have got to be doing that sort of thing.
You're crazy, and I know that it's easy to everybody stays in their own kind of silo and everybody gets used to things, right? And higher ed, as you and I both know, is frequently slower to develop than maybe a lot of other industries. I hate calling higher ed an industry, but it is, right?
We got
And
to
if you
pay the
don't have
bills.
that, yeah, no, right? I mean, exactly. And if you're not thinking about, and we hear it in meeting after meeting, and it's such a cliche, but if you're not thinking about innovation, while remembering that sometimes the simplest forms of development or institutional uh, development is innovation, right? Um, the future could look pretty bleak. So
Hmm.
one of the things that a lot of individuals that came to me, I had a student at Benedictine who I was taking through the theater program, and her parents, her parents came and they said, you know, what's she really going to do with this theater degree? Right? To me, right? And
Yeah.
I looked at the guy. I remember it to this day, and this is, I mean, this was a very me thing. And in retrospect, I probably shouldn't have put it this way, but I looked at him and I go, I'm doing great. What other questions do you have? You know, like it's not one way, and it's not I go to college, I get a job. Great. Like you can do that if you want to, but A, you should be thinking about what you're going to learn along the way. That would be nice. But one of the things that the world lacks now are generalists, and college is a great place to really think and not just hone in on what you're good at, but maybe explore other things. And the last time I checked, I think that's called getting an education.
Yeah.
And it's important for a lot of people to remember that you can be an accountant if you want to be an accountant, but if you're an accountant that doesn't possess the communication skills necessary to really affect your clients positively, you're not going to be a very good accountant, and you're certainly not going to be one for very long, right? And I think the communications program at the University of Central Missouri is an incredible place, not just to work on what you're good at, whether you're a debater or whether rhetoric or public speaking is your thing, but to develop yourself as a person, knowing that you're still, despite whatever device that you're buried in, you're going to have to work on those skills because you're going to have to talk to people. You're going to have to communicate with people. You're going to have to persuade people. You're going to have to educate people, right? So take full advantage of it while you're there and understand that it might be a little tedious and it's certainly going to be out of your comfort zone in many instances, but it's for the betterment of yourself so that you can make the world a better place. It's that simple. And it starts with us. There's no imaginary force that's going to do that for you. It's you. You're the one that's going to do it. So,
Well, Ryan, this has been a great conversation. This has been different than the other conversations I've had with our alumni. We've gotten a chance to really talk about the state of higher ed, and I love that. Before I let you go, I do have to ask you a couple questions that I ask all of my guests
sure.
related to UCM. What is a piece of advice you would give to a current student studying communication at UCM? And what's a piece of advice? Let's take one of your students. What's a piece of advice you would give to an MCC student thinking about UCM as a reason why they should come here?
That's this the second part of that question is much easier. UCM is it's I don't mean this badly, right? Um, the faculty of the University of Central Missouri are accomplished. They are incredible. And the affordability piece is certainly there. You can hold up UCM against similar institutions across the state of Missouri, and you will see that the affordability piece is probably the best among all of them, 4-year wise. I mean, so that needs to be a factor. And I tell individuals all the time, if you're considering college, but if you came from means like I did, start at a place like UCM. You'll find that you'll probably finish at a place like UCM as well. The type of individual attention, I remember I was in a handful of classes that had 200 and 300 people in them. That is not the norm at UCM. Not at the risk of sounding like a college promotional video, like small class sizes, faculty that care. Like, no, they do, and the classes are frequently small. Joe, we would have never gotten to know each other if you had huge lecture classes of like 200 and 300 people. You would have been
Nope.
bogged down with constant essays or speeches or anything else. The relationships that I had amongst the faculty were because of small class sizes and the individuals in the classes that encouraged discourse. That's what college is supposed to be. I remember Dr. Kenneth Cust's ethics class was one of the best ones that I've ever taken in all of the college classes that I've taken, because it was the discourse. It was centered in the material, so it was nice to have those conversations. The affordability piece of UCM, I think, is a driving factor, and then the discovery of the individuals that care and will facilitate your growth and educational goals is really, really, really important. So that's why I encourage individuals to go to the University of Central Missouri.
Well, Ribo, great having you on today. Thank you
You
so
too.
much for being here. Tell the family I
Thanks, man.
said hello, and keep
I
doing
will
what
do
you're
that.
doing. It's important work.
Thank you,
It's
Joe.
meaningful work, and we want to partner with you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Joe.
All right. You have a happy holiday.
Happy holidays.
And thanks all of you for tuning in today. Remember, you can catch every episode of You Can Get There From Here on our YouTube channel through youtube.com/UCMMN. That stands for the UCM Media Network. You can also listen on Spotify. Special thanks to Jake Mager for creating our theme music. Again, this is Dr. Joe Moore reminding you, you can get there from here. Have a great day.